kind of allowed myself to see my value. And Derrick Rose was crying on the court and say, when you're 51 and I have 2 teenagers, I'd be like, oh, gross.
Abby and Naoko here with another edition of Women's League. Today we're talking to the amazing Marney Gellner. She is basically the face of sports in Minnesota. There's nothing she hasn't done, from play-by-play to sidelines to hosting. She's also raised a family and is a breast cancer survivor.
And what's crazy is she may have not actually gone into TV sports, right?
Yeah, she always wanted to be a comedy writer for SNL. I don't think
There's a great story behind it.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything Marney can't do. I don't know how many Emmy Awards she's won, but she is just incredible. We had so much fun talking to her, and we hope you enjoy it as much as we did. And here she is, Marney Gellner. Marney, we went through some of your many accomplishments, but I feel like you've done so much, you continue to do so much. What is your favorite thing that you've done?
Other than this podcast?
Yes. Thank you, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I've been in this business for so long, and I've been blessed to get a lot of opportunities and do a lot of things, a lot of cool things. I think I'm probably just most proud of the longevity and the way that I've sort of been able to finagle my way, because the business has changed so much, the industry has changed so much, and I'm still working. So I think—
And doing new things. I mean, it was just this summer that you were asked to do play-by-play for the Twins.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's probably just being able to be good enough at a lot of different things to be serviceable and still have a career and kind of ride the wave wherever it's going. I have no idea. I like to say, Jackie of all trades, master of none.
Or master of all, maybe.
Yes. Your humility is showing through, and you do not have to be humble on this podcast.
I mean, it's interesting the point you made about like trying to finagle through the different renditions of television and the different eras of television and trying to, because it's quickly changing with technology, with the digital platforms and all of that. And I think maybe that's something that they don't address or teach you, or I certainly didn't learn about. Okay, like once you enter the industry, you're still going to have to do a lot of navigating to continue to be in the industry, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's probably true in a lot of professions, because technology is a part of a lot of professions. I mean, my mom was a teacher and she wrote on a chalkboard, and I don't think they use many chalkboards anymore. So even in that kind of profession, you just, as technology takes you places, you need to be able to teach Zoom classes or whatever it is. So yes, in our business in particular, because it is so heavily technology driven. But I remember, like, when I started in my first job out of college, it was 1996, and I was a one-man band, and I had a 3/4-inch tape.
You did? You had one of those 3/4-inch things?
Yes. And that would be over one shoulder. And then there was this huge blue cord that connected that big blue bag thing to the camera on my right shoulder. And I would go to high school football games. I would do interviews at a local college. I mean, everything as a one-man band. And that thing together, that camera and that bag and that 3/4 machine, I mean, that must have weighed 20 pounds. And I would do it multiple times a week, because that's what you did. I mean, my first job was in Bismarck, North Dakota. I'm from North Dakota. And I
was going to say, they may still be using chalkboards in North Dakota in the schools.
Abby!
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
We're a sensitive people, okay?
No, I don't think you are, Marney, actually. But from what I know about you.
So anyway, to go from that to now where I am with this industry and the kinds of things we do is just crazy. But yes, to be able to navigate it, that's sure. That's a skill too.
And just to be able to paint this picture a little bit more, so you're carrying all of this gear, going to a high school football game, running from end zone to end zone, and all you want to do is catch one touchdown or one interception so that you can then move on to the next game.
Yes.
And it is those first jobs in television, I don't think They definitely weed out the people who are not as passionate or as passionate as they think they will be. But it is, my first job was in Montgomery, Alabama. And I remember covering an Alabama softball, or no, it was baseball practice in the middle of the summer. And I was sweating so much. I like sweat through the butt of my shorts and I couldn't read my notes because it had like soaked through all of the paper. And then you have to try and shoot a stand-up by yourself. And so I only wore white shirts that entire summer so that you couldn't see the sweat stains coming through.
But see, you adjusted.
It's all very glamorous. Yes.
You adjusted. You learn.
Yes. And you were freezing. You were the opposite of that. So how many
have
layers
summer
you had
in
to
North
wear?
Dakota too, Abby? We have summer.
Good. Thank you. I learned something today, Marnie. I appreciate that.
Well, nowadays you just like you have a phone, you can like flip it and look at your stuff, and you know, so it's a lot easier.
The other thing is that they had to call in the scores, like especially the Friday night football scores. You had to rely on a coach or someone, and if they didn't, I would call a local bar. I would open up the phone book, a physical phone book, and try to hit all the surrounding towns around Bismarck or Grand Forks. High school football is huge in North Dakota too. And so you call up like Bob's Chicken Shack and be like, hey, does anyone know how the football game ended? And they would, did anyone go to what is it, 14-8? It was 14-8. We won. And that was how we try to gather all the scores before going on the sports on like a Friday night. It was crazy.
No, Marnie, Naoko and I are so young, we don't know what a phone book is. That's crazy. I'm kidding. I'm totally joking. I do want to go from that to where you are now. And yeah, how are you dealing with, I'm struggling with feeling old, looking old, how I manage all of that with the look that I'm trying to go for on television, where I'm trying to be a hip mom, kind of, I think is the look that I'm going for. I'm not sure I necessarily achieve it. But the faux leather, I feel like, is really helping me with these transitions.
Not helping the mics, but okay.
But is that something, do you even think about that?
Yes. Aging on television is a real thing, and I embrace it. I've done nothing about it. I am currently wearing no makeup except mascara for you.
Oh, wow.
And lip gloss for you. Nothing else.
You're
but
so
I put
naturally beautiful.
Sure, that's it. And I put a light on my face to try to,
you look beautiful.
But I'm just over it. I think I look good enough to be on TV, and that's it. I don't worry about anything else. Yes, I put on makeup when I'm working. I worked a game last night. I wore my makeup. I looked fine, but I have not had any plastic surgery. I've not had any Botox. I'm not opposed to it. I don't care if anyone wants to do it. I just kind of got to a point in my life where I feel like I took so much criticism, and a lot of it was lighthearted. I remember like a boss telling me here in Minneapolis, probably a good 10 or 15 years ago, like calling me into his office, and he had a freeze frame of a hit I did at a Twins game, like a sideline reporter live in the stands, and he had it paused, and he called me into his office, and he was like, corporate does not like your hair like that. And I'm like, okay.
At least it's hair. At least it's something you can fix. But also, good God, how long had he been staring at that picture?
I don't know. But I got that. And then I got corporate would like you to wear more sweaters and soften up your look. Then I got corporate would like you to wear more suits. Think like lawyer, business meeting. And through the years, just all these things, I finally got to a point where like, I'm going to dress how I need to dress, which is professional. And if it doesn't work for them, I'm going to have to find something else because I can't do this. And I'm not a fashion person. And so that's what I did. And here I am, 51 years old, still somehow working. So they must be okay with the way I dress or how my hair looks, or they've just given up on me. That could be it too.
Was there at any point in your career, I mean, now you've found so much success, but between now and, the very beginning when you were lugging around 3/4-inch equipment, was there at any point a time when you were like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. It's too much. Or did you just grind through your entire career?
Many, many, many times. In fact, I probably worked
in
this. Oh yeah. I worked in this business for probably 10, 15 years before I realized this was going to be my career. because I was always like in this because it worked and it was kind of fun and it was kind of scratching an itch I had. And the whole time was like, I'll do this until I find my job, which I didn't know what that would be. I wanted to work somehow in entertainment. This is no secret, but my dream job was I wanted to be on SNL. I used to write sketches when I was in high school. I mean, they were very bad. It was
Wait,
more
I
like
want to hear some of
ideas.
these.
I know.
was
I
like
wish. Do
this-
you have them saved somewhere?
Yeah, I have a notebook somewhere in storage.
For your next birthday, you should have the kids act it out with you.
It was more like ideas like my biology teacher has this tick and this would be funny if it mixed with my uncle who slurs or whatever. It was more like character ideas and things that I thought, I'm going to totally do that. Well, I made zero effort to take the path that would land me on SNL. Minus I took one class on Introduction to Beginners Improv. Introduction to Beginners Improv.
Did you enjoy it?
At Second City in Chicago. I loved it, but I had to drive to Chicago every Wednesday from Madison, Wisconsin, which is where I was living. And it wouldn't work. And I had a full-time job with benefits and I am responsible and I like my life in order. I like my skies clear. And so I just never had the guts to do anything else. So to the question about did I ever want to quit? Yeah, because I never was really in this job until, I was probably in my 40s before I was like, I think this is going to be my career. And I was okay with it. I just didn't see it. And then I just kept working and working and it kind of took different forms. And I was like, okay, this is not so bad.
Do you feel like it's still a grind, or has it become easier because of where you are, because of your experience, because of, what you have in place in terms of jobs? Like, do you feel more secure?
Yes.
Is that a weird question?
No. You know what? It is less of a grind in one area. And Abby, I'm going to need you to lean in and listen. I cut back on my travel.
Oh, yes.
Massively.
I know
I
we talked
traveled-
about this a couple of years ago, and
Yes,
I'm
we
not
did.
there yet. But yes,
We did.
please.
But I traveled
Continue.
for 10 years full time. And I started traveling when my daughter was 1, which means my son was 3 and 1.
Oh, really?
Wow.
That's when I started the travel, the heavy
yeah.
travel portion for 10 years, full time with the Timberwolves. And then in the summer, I would travel with the Twins, not full time. We kind of had a rotation and I would do maybe a third of the games in baseball, but I still traveled. And
Yeah.
that
Well, and baseball
time-
travel is different, I want to say, than basketball
Yes.
travel. Just those trips
Totally.
are so much longer. You're in places for 3 to 4 days at a time, and then you pick up and go to another city. Baseball is just such a grind. I don't have to work in the summertime, so that's kind of my trade-off. But please continue.
Yes, that makes a huge difference. I will say though, baseball, it's the first time I've ever unpacked a suitcase in a hotel and used the drawers ever was when I traveled with baseball. But
I have another dig though. That tells you how good the Timberwolves were, because the playoffs you can unpack sometimes.
That is fair.
Inside. Okay, go. Anthony Edwards is awesome.
The truth hurts. The Western Conference Finals last season. I mean, can you top that? Oh wait. Yeah, you did. But that cutting back on traveling, I almost don't travel at all. I was on a trip with the Timberwolves. I was joining them in Oklahoma City in March of 2020 when everything shut down. I had my suitcase packed. I had my flight booked. They were on a trip a game we didn't have. So I was meeting them in OKC, and that flight got canceled and everything shut down at that point. And we did not play the rest of the NBA season except in the bubble. From that moment on, I basically stopped traveling. And it has been the best thing I've ever done and the most life-changing, because I don't think I would have been able to continue in the job. I was missing so much at home and just so much of my life. And I have regrets, and I don't need to get into it because I will cry. There were at least 2 to 3 times every NBA season when I would have a bawling breakdown because I'd be home. I'd be so tired. I needed a nap. And then I was so pissed that I had to nap while I was at home with my kids, that I would just have this crying breakdown. But I did it. I mean, I kept doing it, so there must have been good benefits. It's not like I wish I hadn't gone through it. I just wish I could have found a balance, and I didn't feel like I had enough clout, or I don't know what it is. Maybe I didn't have the confidence or the strength to go to my boss and be like, you got to cut this in half for me. I just didn't think there was any other option. So I grinded through it. And then in 2020 was done and have never gone back. I do trips here and there when I need to. I'm the backup play-by-play person for the Wolves. So I'll do like 10 games a year or something. I've already been on the road a couple of times, but it's minimal. And that has really changed everything for me.
Well, we talk about this a lot with some of the younger people that, students that we're asked to just, talk to and all that. But one thing that I think, young enthusiastic people getting into the industry don't quite understand is the sacrifice of this job, this industry. And especially when you become a parent, to your point about feeling like you can't be in two places at once. And even if you're home, you feel like you can't parent. And how did you kind of manage to, you said you grinded through those years, but like how?
Well, I have an awesome husband who is just, you're leaving on Tuesday and you'll be back on Sunday. Okay. See you Sunday. We kept it very casual with the kids. They never saw me. If I had to leave on a trip and it just was kind of overwhelming and I was going to be gone for 4 or 5 days and I had tears, like I would only let the tears out when I was in the car and away from the house. So it was very casual to them. They didn't know, and they shouldn't know, and they were little. So we kept it just between us. And then my husband, Matt, he was just kind of so nonchalant about it. And he wasn't like, God, I'm with the kids again. He just was like, well, okay, you're gone Tuesday to Sunday. Cool. And I cannot tell you how many times when I would be on the road and working in San Antonio, Golden State, Boston, and somebody would say to me, who's with your kids? And I'd be like, my husband.
What do you think?
I know. And they'd be like, oh, he's babysitting? I'm like, no, he's their dad. And I have asked him before, when you're gone somewhere, does anyone say, where are your kids? And he's like, no, why would they? But it's a weird thing that people see the mom on the road and they're like, oh my God, who is your kids? And then I would look around, oh my God, where are they?
Where are my children? Where did they go? What happened to them? No, Marnie, just hearing you talk about that brings tears to my eyes. I completely identify with that. And it's, the support system is so important, but it's also, I feel like as moms, there's just a different level of guilt.
Yes.
Where it's not only that society's putting that on us, we put those standards on ourselves and we want to be there. And it is, it's disheartening and it's yourself that you're failing and your children you're failing. It's not necessarily, and I reminded Naoko of this morning on our drive over here because she, when she was working for the local here in Boston, and the word you used, you're like, I wasn't there for my kids, or I was an absent mom, and I don't want you to say that about yourself because that's not true. You were there, you're present, you're available for your kids. If something really came up, you would absolutely have been there, but you also are allowed to have a profession and a career and something for yourself. But
I definitely felt like even though I had a job in Boston, I was not home. Like even though I was home, I wasn't home. I don't know, like I wasn't home at night. I wasn't home on the weekends, like the times when you have that free time. So like, I'm always like curious to see how other moms are balancing that.
But I also feel like the travel, and Marnie, you can speak to this, the travel, our NBA travel, because we're with the team, it's, we stay at 5-star hotels, we take private planes, and a lot of times those short trips are like my vacations because when I am home, and even if you have a game the night before, I'm up with the kids at 6:30, 7 o'clock, getting them off to school and making sure that they have everything that they need for the day. And so that is my time to sleep in and actually exercise or maybe do some self-care, as they say. But
I would go to
limited.
Movies. I'd sleep as much as I could. I would go to movies and I would watch a lot of TV because those are the things I did not do at home.
But then I feel really bad if I can't sleep because you get into a place late and you're like, this is my time. This is when I should be sleeping. And inevitably you wake up at 7 a.m. and you're like, damn it. I just want to sleep right now. Why? It's so frustrating.
Let me just wrap up this conversation. I assume we're moving on from the travel. I will say one thing because my kids are a little bit older than both of your kids. My kids are 14 and 16. They have almost no recollection whatsoever of me being gone or not being present or not. It's only me thinking about the Christmas concert that I missed or whatever. They don't remember that. They know I'm here now and going to their games and their things and their activities. So if that gives you any greater confidence that you didn't do anything wrong, that is sort of where I go bottom line. They don't remember that. They were too little, and it didn't happen to them like it happened to me. It wasn't sad for them. They're not like, my mom's never here. So it is okay. They are okay. They are well adjusted, and we're all good.
And now that you are home, what has been the biggest difference, from your perspective and your time?
Well, my kids are driving me nuts. Yeah, just kidding.
That's why we leave. No, I'm kidding.
So let's go back to phase one now.
Just kidding. We still work nights and weekends. So even though I'm always home, I'm still gone like 3 or 4 nights a week. So they can't get sick of me, or I claim they can't get sick of me. What's been different is I don't cook. And before it was like, well, obviously I don't cook. I travel. So now that I'm home, it's like, well, you're kind of here. Could we have some supper tonight? So I'm trying to learn that, but my husband does most of the cooking. It's just like being around. You know what I love doing? Carpool. And I hear people complain about carpool all the time. I never got to do the carpool. I was always calling or texting, oh, can Finley get a ride? Can somebody pick her? And now I'll be like, if there's something going on, if they want to go to a movie or whatever, I'll text the group, and the moms will be like, I can take them there and home tonight. I have nothing going on. I just loved it because I got to know my kids' friends. My son now has his driver's license, and he has since March. That's a whole different world. But I still have my daughter that I drive around a lot, and I love having her in the car with me. I love having her friends. We play music. I hear them talk about this boy and this. I love the carpool because I never got to do it.
Spoken like, right, someone who, it's that commodity that was not available to you at the time, and now it is. And
Yes.
Try to soak it all up. But I do want to go back to what you said about leverage and feeling like you just didn't have that to be able to ask off. And for me, the pandemic was really big because something could be taken away, I'm able to kind of not take everything so seriously. It doesn't feel like everything is life and death. And so I've found a better balance of what I'm willing to live with and live without and those kind of things. And I think Naoko asked you this, but was there a moment where you did feel like you have the leverage, or is it just you got to a point where you're like, I don't care if you say no, or if this gets taken away, I'm okay with that?
It's both. It's both, to the point where I kind of allowed myself to see my value. And when I say Jackie of all trades, master of none, I use that lightheartedly, but it is 100% true. I can host a show. I can do sidelines. I can do play-by-play. I can do a feature story. I've done coaches shows. I've done interview shows. Like, I've done basically everything you can do in this business. And I've done it decently enough that it can be on air, on a major network, whatever. So I finally kind of allowed myself to go, you know what? They need me. They will survive without me, but they want me. And I have a great relationship with my bosses. I'm not trying to say this was like hard-headed. I just finally said, I really want to take, maybe an extra game off at Christmas. I just took Friday's game off because my husband's cousin got married, and I know that family, and I wanted to be at the wedding. It was out of town. We had a hotel, and I did it. And guess what? They still played the game without me.
No way.
Yeah.
Would you know what happened, Marnie? Was it on television?
Allowed myself to. I went those 10 years that I traveled, I maybe took off 3 games total in a collective 10 years, not 3 per year, because I just was like, somebody's going to take my job, or they're going to be pissed if I ask. I don't really have a backup. How are they going to find one? And I finally was like, you got to find someone because I'm going to start. And they were like, okay, yeah. I'm like, why didn't I do this earlier?
And you didn't feel like any FOMO in that moment?
You know what? I took off a Halloween game in, oh gosh, I'll have to look it up, 2021 or 2 or something. And Derrick Rose had 50 points in a home game. And the girl who was doing the game for me, Leah Bielson, one of my dear true friends, got to do this post-game interview. And Derrick Rose was crying on the court. And I'm sitting at home on Halloween, which is a big deal to kids, a big deal. And I got to go out and trick-or-treating with my kids. And I was like, God, I was so pissed. But I didn't regret it. I just wanted I wanted both.
You wanted both.
I had FOMO because I was like, well, this is a once in a career type of interview. I've never had a player cry on the court while standing next to me doing a one-on-one post-game interview. So I was super happy for Leah. She did a great job at that. But that is immediately what comes to mind of like a FOMO, because usually it's just a game. We played the Lakers on Friday, which happened. We won by 10. Nothing outstanding in the game happened. In fact, it was kind of a snooze fest. I was like, perfect.
Oh, that
Well, you're so right. It
resonates.
It's such a mindset too. You're right. You want both, and it is impossible to have, unfortunately, and that's the reality. But like you say, to not even think about asking for a game off, Marney. My entire family got lice on a game day. We realized it, and so we went to the office where they do all the things to your hair. Yeah, comb it out. They heat it to kill them and dry them out. And so I remember standing in a hallway with my hair completely greased back, calling my producer and being like, I think I can get there. I just need to wash my hair a few times after we leave. I might miss the coach's pregame interview, but I will definitely be there. And my producer was like, no, please don't come.
Yeah. Nobody wants
okay.
you here.
And yeah, nobody wants you. And you less riddled hair here. It's going to be okay. Stay home tonight. And I was like, are you sure? I can do it. I swear. And he's like, no, please. It's going to be okay. And it's just so silly that they like the things that we're willing to do. And I don't know how.
Well, because they're in another job, right? And in another job in that scenario, you'd be like, so I'm not coming in. You'd easily be able to say no, but it's like that weird push and pull that happens in TV where you're like, but I need to be there for just in case for that moment when the player cries on TV and it's my interview, right? Like it's so hard. It's so hard to balance. But can we go back to the SNL thing? Because I that's so fascinating to me that's what you really wanted to do. And like, what was it? Was it the comedy? Was it being on air, and then that kind of translated to being on air in sports? Like, how did that?
And does live TV scratch that itch enough for you?
No, because our live TV is pretty professional, and we don't get to riff a lot and do a lot of jokey, haha things. But it is entertainment. Sports is entertainment, so I feel like I had and have an itch to work in entertainment. And I do. I work in sports, and it's more the comedy. Like I have always been obsessed with comedy, like sketch comedy in particular, SNL, and then like sitcoms, Will and Grace, Friends, that kind of like live audience where you hear the laugh track, whether it's real or not, but they're always filmed before a live studio audience. They'd have that line. And that was my backup plan. If SNL didn't work, I was gonna be on a sitcom. And I never really wanted to be
on it. You're gonna be the actress, not a writer. You're gonna be on it.
Correct. And I wanted to be like the quirky next door neighbor who was in a lot of the shows, but not like the star. I didn't need that kind of attention and pressure. And I just wanted to be the sidekick or whatever. That was my plan. Again, did nothing to make plan happen. But always that, like when I would dream as a kid, about what I wanted to do. And in fact, if I'm being honest, if Lorne Michaels is looking for 51-year-olds to join the comedy team, I am still open to it.
I am sure he is scouring podcasts, and he may come upon this one day.
You never know.
And
You never
it's
know.
a diamond
You
in the
never know.
rough. Yeah, you never know. Um,
Why sports?
Starting mom life.
Yeah, why sports? How'd you get into it? How were you an athlete growing up? And
I was a huge jock in high school. I played 4 sports in high school. I played 2 sports in college at a smaller school in North Dakota. My high school sports were basketball, volleyball, track, and softball. And then in college, I played volleyball and softball. And it was so important in my life. It was what I lived for. And I just am very naturally athletic, but wasn't great at anything, kind of the Jackie of all trades, master of none. I don't know. I love sports. I have 2 brothers, one older, one younger. And I don't know. That's all I wanted to do all the time. And so it seemed natural that I would get a job in sports because I liked it. I liked being around it, but never, ever did I think I want to make a career out of being in sports. I get asked all the time. I'm sure both of you do as well. Get an email from a college kid. Hey, I need to write a paper on, so I really want to work in sports. Hey, how can I connect? I want a job in sports. Like I don't know why that wasn't really appealing to me, or maybe just not on the forefront, or maybe because when I broke into the business in 1996, there were hardly any women working in sports, and the outlets were like CBS, NBC, ESPN. You had 4 or 5 networks, but we didn't have Big Ten Network. We didn't have all these internet shows, and I sound like an old lady, and I don't mean to. I just mean at that time with my mindset, it was like, well, you're either going to be Leslie Visser working for CBS or Michelle Tafoya on NBC, and that seemed so far away. There were so many steps to take to get there. So I was local news. I was like, well, this will get me at least some experience. We'll see where it takes me.
All right. I mean, you are the face of sports in Minnesota, I feel like. Can you walk down the street without people recognizing you?
Shockingly, yes.
really?
Oh.
Like people don't come up to you in supermarket. Oh, hello, Marney.
Yes, they do all the time, but I don't
The
mean all the time.
supermarket is
like,
my hot
oh,
zone, by the way. My hot spot. That's where people recognize me the most. That's where I'm most famous, is the supermarket.
I'm anywhere there are 70-year-old men. That is my weekend. And I love them.
Your
I
target
love
audience. That's good.
Yeah, like people will say hello all the time, but I don't ever use the word famous. My daughter, who's 14 now, when she'd be with me at Target or grocery store, whatever, if somebody came up and would chit chat me, she especially, I don't know why, was very intuitive about it. How do they know you? And I would always say, just from work. And she would always say, but you're not Taylor Swift famous, right? And I would say, right. That in her mind was how she understood. And I would always say, if they watch sports, they just want to talk about it. And she's like, oh God, how boring. And I'm like, I know. And then in her mind, when someone is known, they're Taylor Swift or they're everybody else. And so that was her level of understanding, like, oh, they know who you are, but you're not Taylor Swift famous.
I feel like that's a good concept to have in relation to firm.
Yeah.
And,
So yeah. And
putting
then
yourself out there.
I am also no big deal to her at all because I'm not Taylor Swift famous. So why even bother? Which again is very healthy.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good thing. You mentioned it. When you were coming up, there were not that many women in sports. Obviously, we've come a long way. Still have a long way to go. But you have gone through the process of being pregnant on television twice and worked with Katie Storm, who is now the sideline reporter for the Timberwolves and just had a baby about a year ago. What do you remember about that? And what did you relay to Katie in that situation and like words of wisdom?
I remember when I was first pregnant, I actually texted Michelle Tafoya because she lives in the Twin Cities and we have been friends for a long time. And I can't even believe sometimes that sentence comes out of my mouth because she was my idol in this business when I started, and now we're friends. So anyway, she has 2 kids, and they're a little older than my kids. And so when I found out I was pregnant, we met for coffee, and she just kind of talked about like being on camera and being pregnant. And I just remember like trying to balance how excited I was and then being like, oh, people are gonna say things that they already don't like my hair the way I had it that one day. What are they gonna say about this belly? But it turns out people are really, really gracious for the most part about a perfectly natural, normal, and kind of exciting thing. So I had almost zero issues with it outside of my own physical, like when you get to be quite pregnant and you're trying to navigate through bleachers or wherever you happen to be. But I didn't, and I was lucky in that I gained all my weight in my belly. I was like a torpedo straight out. But if I was behind a desk,
That's
you
that
could
athlete body. It's really
barely, you could barely tell. My face didn't get fat. I didn't get a ton of acne. Physically to be on TV, I still looked fine. I feel kind of gross saying that, but that's the truth. And I really didn't have any issues other than people were very curious about how far along am I? What is the gender? What is the name? Am I having a natural birth? And then when I came back after the baby, it's what is
They
the
asked
baby?
you if you're having a natural birth? Strangers ask you that question?
Sorry, no. I had 2 C-sections. Thank you.
Okay.
Not intentionally.
Strangers ask you that
when I came back after the birth,
They
not
did?
natural birth. What do you think I said? I think you didn't hear me or something. I said when I came back after the birth, and you're like,
Oh, I thought you said they asked you if you had a natural birth. Oh, that's why I was like,
no,
I was horrified. I was like, who would say that?
no.
Who asked you about the birthing process? What's going on in Minnesota? So they're just asking women.
We share
How's the birth
a lot
went?
here. No, I'm just saying
sorry.
people are curious and they ask some inappropriate questions, but not about the natural birth, which I also did not have. I had 2 unplanned seasons. Well, the second one was planned, but
Yes. And then the advice that you gave to Katie.
oh yeah, I totally got off track, didn't I? I honestly, I remember we talked a lot, but I don't know that I really gave her advice. She just kept showing up, and I think she was fine. I feel like when you have a baby in 2024 and you're pregnant, it's like we are in a different place now with it. I don't know. I don't remember it being an issue. I don't even know if she really asked me any questions. I remember we talked about it just in general, like how exciting and the travel, but she's not traveling. She stopped, before the baby was born, and then she hasn't really traveled since. So she's being way more proactive than I was. But maybe I'm just not an advice giver. Maybe she didn't need it. I don't know. I don't think I gave her advice. I said, go have that baby. Go get a C-section, girl.
Yes. I just remember when after my first one and trying to come back, and I did travel, and I bought a book that was, the transition back to work and put your kid in daycare from 9 to 5. And that is just not something that works for our jobs and in our lifestyle. And there weren't many resources, and there aren't that many people who have done it. And I was nursing at the time, and my HR didn't know that we had a program to ship milk back and forth. Like I had to do that research and figure that out. And
wow.
And then it's also, we're older in this process. And so a lot of I didn't know that I could ask for more ultrasounds. My first, Mabel had a lot of health issues in the beginning, and I just didn't know that I could have been more proactive in that whole process and going through that. So it's a lot of things that I try to share. And maybe I'm an oversharer, Marnie, because anytime I see someone, I'm like, do you want to know what happened to me? Can I tell you about my natural birth? What happened in my delivery room?
I do remember both of my kids were born in March. Their birthdays are 5 days apart, 2 years, but 5 days. And so my nursing I nursed for 6 months, and it was through the summer. So it was during twins season. And the twins' wives let me use their twins' wives' room to nurse or to pump and then to store my milk. And then after the game, I would go get my milk, put it in my cooler, and leave. And that was like the process. And I wasn't traveling either summer when the babies were, baby babies, but there are not a lot of great places to nurse at a ballpark. Now they have like mothers lounges, but I don't know if they're on the concourse or it was a unique issue, to your point, Abby, of not knowing that they had a program to ship milk back, because they probably don't have a lot of employees in your spot that are traveling that need milk shipped.
Right. Totally. And yes, I just wish there were more resources out there, which is part of why we're doing this, is to talk about things like that.
Yeah, and normalize it too.
Yeah.
And now that you are home, even though like you do work nights still and weekends still because of games and all that, and your kids are older, right? Do they play sports?
Yes. High school sports.
So,
it's the
so then
best.
are you there to be able to go to their games and all of that?
Yes, as many as possible. And as a matter of fact, my husband and I were just talking about our son as a defensive lineman on the football team, and he started this year. We didn't see it coming. He didn't play varsity last year as a sophomore, and he ended up starting this year. And I saw all but one game. And we talked about, because next year is his senior year, I said, I'm going to make sure I have every Friday off. It's only like 8 of them.
Yeah.
But it'll start with the WNBA season and going to the NBA season. And I said, I'm going to tell my bosses up front, like, I need these 8 Fridays to not be working. Do you think that's aggressive? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, we got to be there. This period in my life at 51 with 2 teenagers, if I would be at 30 and look ahead to my life and say, when you're 51 and I have 2 teenagers, I'd be like, oh, gross. I love it. It has been my absolute favorite time of any point in my life, because the kids are independent enough. I don't have to help them walk up the stairs and feed them food, and all those were wonderful, beautiful years. But they're people now that I have conversations with, that I say, I love you, and they say, I love you, and these are my friends, and I got a game tonight, and we're sitting with the parents, and that's our social life now, and we might go to Heartbreakers afterwards if we win this game. And it's been the most joyous time of my life, and I did not see it coming, because I don't like a lot of people's teenage kids, but I enjoy mine.
Well, you raise them. They're people that you actually like and enjoy. How wonderful, and what great feedback to get for yourself and all of your efforts that you put in.
It gets better.
It's amazing that like you're at a point in your career now where you can ask for those Fridays off and feel okay about it, right?
And you should. I mean, any working person in any field should feel like they can ask for time off. That shouldn't be a rare concept. I don't know why it was for me, but
no, I still struggle with that very much.
I think we all still struggle with that.
And especially in this business, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, Marnie, that's a wonderful way to come full circle. But I do want to ask, and you are also a breast cancer survivor, and I want to know what kind of perspective that gave you.
You know what? I haven't been able to quite figure that out yet. I was just thinking about that. I've been asked a couple of times, but it's only been a little over a year since my final surgery, and I had 4 surgeries. And I don't like to use the word survivor either, because I didn't have chemo. I didn't have that kind of breast cancer that you visualize in your head where, you're wearing a cap all the time and you're sick, and I was lucky enough that mine was found so early in a regular yearly mammogram that it started with a lumpectomy, went to a second lumpectomy, and ultimately ended with mastectomy, single, because I had much more of it than they realized, but it was all non-invasive. It was very early and needed no chemo. I was supposed to have radiation if I had the lumpectomy, which they couldn't get at all, so there was nothing left to radiate. Long story. But I I find it hard I don't know where that belongs. I had like breast cancer light or diet breast cancer because I went through something and it sucked and it was hard, but I never was at a threat to die. I never had to experience chemo. I didn't get sick, those hair loss, those kinds of things. So I don't put myself in that category, but I did go through something and it was hard and it sucked. And so I'm in that category and I don't yet know what to make of all of it and where to put it, other than to say, I am so thankful for my health every single day. It is not lost on me and I do not take it lightly. And I will tell anyone who will listen, please get your mammograms every year at 40. The verbiage changes. Sometimes they say, well, if you have it in your family, if you don't, no. Get a mammogram, at least starting at 40, and do it every year. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that invasive. It's not that time consuming. Have a party if you want to meet your girlfriends and have drinks afterwards, whatever. Get your mammograms because they help me to be at a point where I didn't have to go through something much, much worse. So I don't know, Abby, how to answer your question just yet. In a couple of years, I figure I might have a better perspective on what it means. And right now I'm just like, I am healthy and I feel great today. So
I'm so glad for that and really appreciate you sharing, because you did share all of that on social media and it's made it your mission that women know that. But I think one thing that's clear is that you will not and cannot be defined by anything that I feel like, and you shouldn't be defined by these one things or be put into boxes. And that's what makes life beautiful. And that's what has made, I think, you so successful in your career and the longevity that you have experienced. So, Marney, we just want to thank you for taking so much time and sharing and being so candid with us, particularly about your birth experience. And we can't wait to watch you on TV.
Yeah, thank you, Marty.
Well, this has been very enjoyable. I appreciate what you guys are doing because I agree with you that there's not enough people, women, talking about the challenges of working this kind of a job. Even though there are a lot of great things that go along with it, it's hard and it's a unique challenge. So thanks for bringing some light to it. It was a joy to talk to you guys today.
So I definitely feel inspired by Marney. I mean, she gave us some actionable tips in terms of working and parenting, but I love the fact that she went all the way back to her past, where she started, how she started, and it was with this giant 3/4-inch camera that she was lugging around sidelines. I mean, that took a lot of grit to get past that stage, right?
Those tapes are enormous. I hadn't seen one, until I got to my first job out of college was at ESPN as a production assistant. And we had to go get some of those old NFL films tapes off of the 3/4-inch and like just carrying a stack of them. They're so heavy. I don't know how anyone lugged those around the sideline. No, now you just use your phone for everything.
Yeah.
It's incredible. She has inspired me in that I know that I should be better in my pursuit for balance when it comes to work and home life. I just feel like it's just so hard.
It is really hard, but I feel like she found, I don't want to say she found a secret, but she found a way to accept, what's okay, what she wants, to advocate for what she wants. I mean, it took her probably up until this point to be able to say no to things, but the fact that she's gotten there is pretty inspirational, I think, for all of us.
I love the way she said it, acknowledging her value. And I think that that's something that many of us need to work on, including myself. So, Marney, we're just so grateful and thankful.
So grateful.
Yes, we hope you enjoyed that. We're just so grateful to Marney, and we are grateful to all of you. We hope that you liked it enough to like, subscribe, tell your friends about it, and leave us a comment if there's any questions that you have, or if there's someone out there who you'd like us to talk to. Let us know. Drop a line.
We'll see you next time.